Hello, I'm Kaiser and welcome to Moose Reads. Before I get started, I want to say that the opinions that I give here are my own opinions. They are extremely subjective. If I dislike a book, it is not a reflection on the author, and it is not a reflection on people who do like it. Different people have different tastes, and that's okay. Today, I will be reviewing House of Gold by C.T. Rwizi. This is a sci-fi novel. The description says, a corporate aristocracy descended from Africa rules a colony on a distant planet. Life here is easy for the rarefied and privileged few. The aristocrats enjoy a powerful cybernetic technology that extends their lifespans and ensures their prosperity. Those who serve them suffer under a heavy hand. But within this ruthless society are agents of hope and change. In a secret underwater laboratory, a separatist cult has created a threat to the aristocracy. The primes are highly intelligent, manipulative products of genetic engineering, designed to lead a rebellion. Enabling their mission are the proxies, the primes' bodyguards and lifelong companions bound to their service. When the cult's hideout is attacked, proxies Nandipa and Hondo rush to the rescue. As they emerge with their primes onto the surface, however, everything they'd been led to believe about their world is shattered. Nandipa and Hondo will risk it all to honor their oath of absolute loyalty. But when the very people they're asked to protect turn on each other, the proxies must decide between those they were built to serve and the freedom to carve out their own destinies. And the fate of their planet may rest in their choice. 2 stars. Generally, when you write a book, you want your main characters to be at the center of the action. This book, however, chose a different approach. Largely, the book seems to be about changing the world, but our POV characters Hondo and Nandipa are not involved in that. Instead, their primes spend the book making plans that they don't tell them about, and occasionally have them complete a task that will help with their aim. At no point in the book do either Hondo or Nandipa know what exactly their prime's goals are, or how their actions contribute to the larger scheme. They are entirely reactive. So, the whole book felt like this surreal experience where I knew there was a plot happening in the background, but fuck if I knew what it was. And in the foreground, we just have Hondo and Nandipa thinking to themselves that they hate all this scheming and they wish they knew what was going on, but that's not their job, and obviously their primes know best, so they'll just do as they're told. It's a frustrating read. It also didn't help that these are basically the only characters in this book. Every other person that pops up is a temporary extra that won't stay long. And even among these 4, because Jamal and Ada Olisa, the primes, are always plotting without sharing, they kind of fade into the background too. So we kind of only have 2 solid characters, and I wasn't all that crazy about Nandipa. Then, of course, there's the inciting incident of this book. Jamal and Ada Olisa have been receiving mysterious messages telling them they're being lied to. Whoever is sending these messages arranges for them to be in the right place to survive their home being attacked. So there's this question hanging over the book of who was sending the messages and why. And also, why did they stop? Because as soon as the 4 are out of the habitat, the messages stop coming. For a while, I was really starting to think we just wouldn't get an answer on this, that it had been forgotten in all of the non-excitement of Jamal and Ada Olisa changing the world in the background. But thankfully, we did get around to it. We get a vague hint a little more than 90% through the book, and then a full explanation in literally the last chapter. Oh, and the explanation feels like it's setting up a sequel, like this is the first book in a series. Except it's not. There's no indication anywhere that there's ever meant to be a second book, and there's nothing in the book itself declaring it as part of a series. It just teases a wider universe and complex story that isn't there. Not that I would read it if it was. Absolutely would not recommend. Okay, that's it for no spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, now is the time to pause or close the video. For everyone else, let's talk details. I'm pretty sure I picked this up as an Amazon First Reads a while ago because it sounded interesting, but by the time I got around to it now, I had completely forgotten what it was about. and I didn't look up the synopsis to find out. So when we start in the habitat with the Primes playing war games to prove who's the smartest, and Hondo having a crush on Nandipa, I thought that was going to be a much larger portion of the book. So I was really thrown for a loop when the habitat was destroyed fairly early, and we launched into a very different story. That's my fault, so I can't complain. What I can complain about is the way they introduced Hondo's crush, though. Because practically the first thing Hondo tells us after he mentions having strange new feelings for Nandipa is that they're siblings. They aren't, by the way. That's a load of bullshit. So it was especially frustrating that Rwizi chose to introduce it like that. Their keepers call them siblings, but they aren't actually raised like siblings, as far as I can tell, and they're largely encouraged to mistrust and work against each other, which does not foster close relationships. I'm glad it was just an incest scare and not anything remotely resembling incest in the long run, but why did we have to get that scare at all? Please stop. Then, like I said, we're in the city, and Jamal and Ada Lisa are doing plot things in the periphery, while Hondo and Nandipa just kind of putter about in their wake. It's fairly dull. But it becomes pretty galling when they start making promises. See, they're into each other, but their primes have very different views on how to fix society, so they quickly realize they are going to be at odds. So the two make a promise that they will keep their primes from killing each other. How? Neither one of them ever knows what their prime is planning, so if either of them made a plan to kill the other, neither proxy would necessarily know about it until too late. This is underscored pretty clearly when, in the next chapter, Jamal takes Hondo to do a terrorism, and the result very nearly does get Ada Lisa and Nandipa killed. But the stupid promises aren't just made to each other. Before they do a terrorism, Jamal asks Hondo if he actually believes in his cause and his plan, and he isn't satisfied until Hondo swears unwavering allegiance to him. Which is a really stupid thing for him to ask, and a stupid thing for Hondo to promise, given that Hondo doesn't have the first clue what Jamal's plan even is. This, again, is underscored by Hondo's next POV chapter, in which he grumps about not knowing he wouldn't get to go back to their apartment after they did the terrorism, and not even getting to pack, despite the fact that Jamal clearly knew this was the plan. And then there's the overall relationship between the proxies and their primes. They're all genetically engineered. The primes are made smarter and the proxies are made stronger, but they are also made to be linked. The proxies are created with an unwavering loyalty and need to protect their primes. So there's kind of an uncomfortable dynamic happening. Both Hondo and Nandipa spend pretty much the whole book unhappy about their prime scheming, but because they've been made to be subservient to their prime, they just shove their feelings aside and do as they're told. And neither prime ever seems to consider that their proxy might want anything in life or, have feelings at all. But eventually, though at different times, both proxies blow up at their primes and yell at them about how they just want to live a normal life and they're tired of the scheming. And despite neither prime ever showing any regard for them as a person, both immediately realize they've been treating their proxy like shit and swear to give up all their schemes after this one last thing. And all indications are they meant it too. I mean, I'm glad that everyone pulled their heads out of their asses and had a real conversation. And I'm glad the primes decided not to be awful about it, but the whole interaction felt very shallow. The primes were so callous about how they used their proxies that I seriously expected one of them to betray their proxy for the sake of their goals. But instead, a single conversation completely shifts their worldview. Really, most of the relationships in this book felt shallow. Nandipa and Hondo spend a decent amount of time getting to know and like each other, so I've got no complaints there. But Jamal and Ada Lisa are both queer, so we briefly see Ada Lisa starting an affair with a public figure and being devastated when said public figure is killed, despite us basically never actually meeting her at all. And then Jamal discovers that another prime proxy pair survived the destruction of their home. This is David and Benjamin, who were more or less their enemies in the habitat. They called them what amounts to slurs, treated them like shit, and at the beginning of the book were actively trying to get them killed, and were mad when that didn't happen. So when they meet up again, and Jamal is almost instantly into David and the feelings are reciprocated, it feels extremely jarring. And it's not just attraction either. The book makes a point of telling us that he was in love, and David's subsequent betrayal was therefore devastating. We set up two sort of mysteries at the beginning of the book that don't get addressed until the very, very end. First, what happened to the previous generations of primes and proxies that supposedly graduated and went off to save the galaxy. And second, who the hell was sending the messages? See, the primes and proxies have been told that hundreds of years ago a rogue AI infected all the colonies and destroyed the world on which they live. So the primes are supposed to go into the galaxy and put things to rights. But as soon as the four reach the surface, it becomes clear that none of that was true. We're told instead that there was a rogue AI infecting colonies, but that their solar system closed the long-distance gate before it reached them. So where are all the other primes and proxies? Who knows? Nobody cares. The four escape alongside one of their keepers, who then quickly goes missing. We're told Edaolisa is looking for him, though nothing comes of it, but nobody ever mentions trying to find either the primes and proxies or whoever was sending them messages. It's all just left hanging. That is until near the end, when we find the missing keeper and he reveals the truth, that they just killed everyone before they ever left the habitat. The primes and proxies were just a genetic modification experiment, theoretically useful, but never really intended to do anything. Not surprising, but it came much too late in the story without enough interest from the characters. And then, when storming the secret base of the people who destroyed their home, Jamal and Hondo come across some strange device, and Jamal is weirdly excited about it. We don't get to dwell on it because the imminent betrayal launches and they're nearly killed. But the device reappears in the last chapter. Apparently, it's a planetary defense system that was infected with the rogue AI and slipped through the long-distance gate before it was closed. But it got corrupted somehow, and so it regained some measure of control. The system has determined that the rogue AI will remake contact with the planet in the next decade, and that the current system is ill-equipped to fend it off. The defense system isn't able to take any direct action, but it calculated that Edaolisa and Jamal working against each other created the best chance of fixing the planet, so it's the one who was sending them messages. Why did it stop? Don't know, don't care. Nobody bothers to ask. Also, Edaolisa promises she and Jamal will help it with further goals, which they will discuss later because God forbid the reader see anything actually happening in this book. But it kind of felt like the primes were breaking their promise to their proxies, and neither of the proxies seemed to notice or care. Also, as I said, it felt like a series setup, but there doesn't seem to be any planned payoff. It really felt like Rwizi needed to have the messages for the sake of the inciting incident, but didn't know what to do beyond that, so he just threw this in at the last minute. It wasn't at all satisfying. That's all I have to say about House of Gold. If you liked this video, I hope you'll watch more in the future. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!